Hi, it's Gary Mintchell, and this is Gary Mintchell on strategy this week. This is February 2nd, Groundhog Day 2011, and I just survived the great Midwest blizzard. I live in Western Ohio. I didn't get the, couple of feet of snow, and I'm told like 5 to 6 foot drifts or higher that they got where all my colleagues in Chicago reside. But we missed the freezing rain, so I still have electricity, therefore I can do this. So talking about strategy and what's going on these days, I was given a book called Doing Both. It's by the Senior Vice President Strategy and Planning for Cisco Systems, and it's how Cisco captures today's profit and drives tomorrow's growth. Doing both. I've always been a bit of a rebel, usually a quiet one. I was in the late 60s, but I only participated in One Piece March, and that was kind of later, and all that sort of stuff. But, it's kind of like people would say either do this or that, or you can, only this or that is possible. And I would always say, why not neither? Why not both? I don't know. Kind of what's going on there. And just sort of the attitude I always took. Well, this is what, the guy's name is Inder Sidhu, and that's kind of what he talks about is why not do both? Sometimes you can sustain your current business and find a disruptive business to branch into, which may disrupt your old business, but you're still trying to grow it. You can do both. Depending on what kind of business you're in, you could do both service your partners and your end customers at the same time. Some people find that very hard to do. In some of my past businesses, I know that was quite a struggle for the company I represented. And could the channel partner and the end user both be served, and how do you divide profits and the splits of revenue and all that? It's a very good it's a very good thing to think about as you look at your business strategy. Can you do both? This relates to some things I talked many years ago when Invensys came out with their thing that they call Infusion, and their Orchestra platform. And I talked to the then Wonderware president, Mike Bradley, who recommended I read a book called Dealing with Darwin about how a company, kind of very similarly, can develop a disruptive new technology while still making money on their old technology. And that's what they saw that doing as far as Wonderware. And Invensys, which is now all Invensys Operations Management, they're still trying to do the same thing. So, taking off on that, there are a number of other things. Think about your own business and what you can do and whether you can be disruptive and sustaining at the same time. What can you do that's both and rather than somebody comes up to you and says, hey, you can either do this or you can do that. Why not both? Why not something else altogether? So that's pretty cool. Last fall, when I was going on the conference circuit and I was doing a lot of stuff, a lot of people were flashing their iPads and doing it very well. So for Christmas, I got an iPad, and quite frankly, I've worked it into my workflow quite well, thinking of disruptive or not. It just helps my workflow. I use it for, I do have a couple of apps for news. I broke down and I'm paying Rupert the money, and I get the Wall Street Journal online. And but mostly I use something called Reader, R-E-E-D-E-R, and that's my feed reader, my Google readers, and I catch up on all my news that way off of RSS feeds. So if you're not linking to like Automation World or Gary Mitchell's Feed Forward blog or a bunch of other people that I refer to, you should be. And I love the reader or the iPad for that. The battery lasts a long time. You can watch. It's great for videos. And I bought WritePad, which is a script. And those of you who remember me in my early days as an editor, I used to always write on a little Palm Pilot, and then Palm went screwy. So I'm thinking about using the iPad similarly. It's light. The battery lasts a long time. I can write on it. It reads script very well. And so I'm working into that. The other things I'm working are Dropbox, a cloud-based service for documents, and Evernote for clipping web pages and so on, so that I can clip them off the iPad and then write about it on my blog on the computer, or even for articles. I've used it for some stuff I've written for Automation World, for example. A second thing, really quickly, on the that we're doing, that I just recently saw. In fact, I just saw it an hour ago. A guy I know by the name of Jon DiPietro, and if you don't know him, read the January issue of Automation World, and I did an interview with him, and he's got his big picture right there. But he just did a blog post on what he called the death spiral, and it comes from a video he saw by Douglas Adams, and you know him, at the the science fiction writer who has a heck of a sense of humor, and so he did this thing. He talked about these parrots who evolved, and as they evolved, instead of multiplying more, they didn't have any enemies and they would overpopulate, so they evolved to slow down their reproduction rate. And then when they were stressed with enemies coming in, the only thing they knew what to do was slow down their reproduction rate, and that's not good, because first they're being killed off and they're not reproducing. So he says, what about companies? And I'm in publishing. He mentions publishing as a potential. There are other things, something for you to look at as you're evaluating your business. You should do it all the time, whether or not you're an owner. I've done it as a vice president. I've done it as a marketing manager, and I take a look at the business I'm in, and I go, things just don't look like we have a future here. In one case, the technology moved, and I looked, and I was selling an add-on board for computers back then, and it was just a multiprocessor. You stick a card in a slot, if you remember those days, and we did high-resolution graphic printing. And about that time, Mintchell released the 8386 chip, which was supposed to be threaded, and you could do multiprocessing. It could do this and this and this and this. And I took a look, and I said, I don't totally understand how this thing works yet, but I bet it could do what our card does, what all the other cards do, and you could all do it in one microprocessor and run the system, and we're out of luck. We were out of luck, and I changed careers. So you need to stop and look at that all the time too. And I'll put a link to the blogs in the show notes that you can look at. But anyway, something to think about. Always, even if you're an employee or if you're a top manager or an owner, you need to look at these strategy things, look out into the future and say, am I limited? What are my options? Are things changing on me that I need to shift? The new word in Silicon Valley is pivot. So do I need to pivot into something else? And you need to be agile these days. You need to be fast on your feet and be like some of these wide receivers that we'll see Sunday in the Super Bowl. So anyway, that's Gary Mintchell on strategy. And if you're coming to the ARC forum, I hope you look me up. I may be running through the hallways, but that's okay. Stop me. I'll always stop and say hi. If I'm a minute late, I'm a minute late. People know I'm busy. So that's okay. So otherwise, have a good day. Hope you're staying warm. And see you later.